Throughout my expedition to find the perfect coaster, I've encountered many different types of them. Some big, some small, and some better than others. Whilst I've been doing this, I've also experienced some awesome coasters built by a very, very special manufacturer, RMC. RMC, better known as Rocky Mountain Construction, is best known for converting older, wooden coasters to awesome steel ones, but they also have some original designs of their own. So with that tidbit information, I'll get on with it and present to you my list of the top 6 best RMCs that I myself have ridden. These are my most highly ranked RMCs. Starting off in spot number 6, we have the least favorite of the RMCs I have ridden, and this is New Texas Giant at Six Flags Over Texas. New Texas Giant was the first RMC and was designed by Alan Schilke. While not featuring any inversions, it does reach a height of 153 feet and a length of 4,200 feet. Now, I did only ride this twice when I visited the park, and it wasn't necessarily running great that day, but I will say for my previous experiences on RMCs, this one definitely wasn't my favorite. From an engineering aspect, I think this is a super cool ride. I mean, it's pretty impressive just seeing this straight up. It's the first RMC, like I said. But I think as far as my overall opinion goes on it, it just wasn't my favorite. Moving on to spot number 5, we have Wonder Woman Golden Lasso Coaster. This is also in Texas, located at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas, just up the road. And this is a single rail RMC, the first that I've ridden of the Raptors. I have yet to ride Railblazer at California's Great America. And this one reaches a mere height of 113 feet, but I loved this for how punchy it was. Man, I got a front and back row ride on this thing, and both seats just blew me away. I loved this ride. The airtime was ejector, and a lot of you know that I'm not a fan of ejector, but the pacing was absolutely outrageous. There is not a single point on this ride where you're not hauling. I loved it. If you end up at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas, definitely worth the wait. Coming in at number 4, a lot of you are going to absolutely hate me for this one, but this is Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point in Ohio. Now, I've ridden this twice on 2 separate occasions, about a year and a half apart, and honestly, I'm not sure what I think of it coming off of both of those experiences. And there's a couple reasons for this. Number 1, I went when it's freezing cold, and a lot of you know that coasters run better when they're hot or in warm weather. So that obviously had a huge playing factor in this. Number 2, I don't remember there being preferred seating, so I didn't have optimum seating, at least from my perspective. Then number 3, I waited in a 3.5 hour line each time I rode this. Unfortunately, it was packed. Millennium Force was 3 hours, Maverick was 4 hours. I mean, the park was ridiculous. So we waited a super long time for this. And they have that really stupid cell phone policy so there's just nothing to do in line while you're waiting for this thing. So of course that's going to make my opinion just a little, more against it. But considering the ride itself, had I not had those outside variables coming into play, I think Steel Vengeance has, of course, a lot of potential to be one of my favorite coasters. I just haven't, unfortunately, ridden it like that. But from the perspective of riding it, I loved it. The 205-foot drop was great, and the inversions were spot on. Alan Schilke did a great job with that. And that first zero G-roll variant is actually probably my favorite inversion on any coaster ever. So number 4, not a bad placing for Steel Vengeance. I know a lot of you won't like it, but I'm sorry to inform you it's not my number 1. Moving into spot number 3, we have Joker at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom. Man, what an underrated ride. When I first rode this about 3 years ago, I actually came off and I was severely disappointed. I was upset, I didn't like it, and we didn't even wait long for it. Fast forward to a couple months ago, I actually came back and re-rode Joker, and I have a lot different opinion now. Yes, I've placed it over Steel Vengeance. Sorry. It is awesome. I think the offset of track colors with the purple and the green is absolutely awesome as you're going around the track. It makes this really hypnotic effect. But beyond that, the whole layout is situated within the coaster itself and super low to the ground, and it kind of has a Maverick feel to it. So I think Joker is a really, really solid design, and I love the fact that they converted it into this layout. Every single inversion was great. The zero G stall was awesome. I actually like it better than Twisted Colossus. And if you've ridden Joker, you've experienced a step up underflip, which is also a pretty rare element. So yeah, no complaints about Joker that second time that I visited. This thing was awesome. Airtime all around, just super well-rounded ride. Moving into spot number 2, this one almost made my number 1, but not quite. This is going to be Iron Rattler at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas, the second RMC at this park. Iron Rattler, as a lot of you might know, was previously a massive wooden coaster. It actually broke several world records when it opened. Unfortunately, it became rough and a lot of liability, so Rattler closed and opened as Iron Rattler in 2013. It has a height of 179 feet and drops off the side of a cliff. And I gotta say, it makes it pretty epic. You turn left out of the station and ascend a pretty long chain lift, and man, I loved it. The drop feels a lot bigger than it looks, and it looks pretty big. And the one inversion it has when you go into the zero G roll is perfectly designed. But I think my favorite part of this ride is you end up on the quarry wall, and you make sort of a turnaround on top of this cliff, and then you just dive off the edge. I mean, it's just airtime. And right after that edge, you go into a long dark tunnel and you fly into the final brake run. I think it could be a little longer of a ride, but for what it was and for the RMCs I've ridden, this thing was pretty top tier. And without further ado, I present my number 1 favorite RMC, which also happened to be the first RMC I rode and the closest one to me. This is Twisted Colossus at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Guys, I cannot tell you enough how much I love this ride and how underrated it is. It does get a lot of hype and it deserves more. And like Rattler and a lot of RMC's other creations, right? This was previously a wooden coaster known as Colossus, and I wouldn't take Colossus back. Twisted Colossus is amazing and is probably in my top 3 best coasters that I've personally experienced. It only goes to a height of 121 feet. It does have a pretty long length though, and it only has 2 inversions. The dueling element on this ride is absolutely fantastic. As you're going through this layout, you're going to have that train on the blue track going over the top of you. You're going to have the green doing the same thing, and you're just racing. It's really awesome. And the one thing I'll stress about this ride that I cannot tell you any more about is the airtime. Look, I'm not a fan of ejector, and this has ejector, but for some reason, Alan Schilke just hit the mark. This probably has the best airtime of any coaster I've ridden, only maybe one up by Steel Eel. This is an absolutely fantastic ride. Totally worth the wait. I would wait 3 hours for this thing any day. Even when it's not dueling, it's still an amazing ride. So, for people who haven't been to Six Flags Magic Mountain, put that on your itinerary. Get there as soon as you can. Twisted Colossus is a ride to behold. And with that being said, that's going to wrap up my list of my top 6 RMCs that I have personally ridden. Of course, there's a lot of other RMCs I'd like to ride in the future, and I will get there eventually. But for now, this is where my list sits. Huge thanks to James for editing these visuals. Go out there, ride some more RMCs. See what you all think. Like and subscribe because obviously that helps a lot. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. See you.